Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Lights, Camera, Smile. I'm Cicily, your host on this podcast. And if you're new here, welcome. I am so excited that you're here. The purpose of this podcast is to kind of peel the curtain back and take a look at the things that we tend to kind of cover and wear a mask for. You know, when we're on a job site or we are at work or we are behind the counter or we're at an event or whatever, we tend to kind of make sure that we're putting our best foot forward and we're being as professional as possible, even if we are dealing with a crisis at home or a crisis within ourselves. All of that is well and good. And I think that it is important to remain as professional as possible. But the purpose of this podcast is to come back to reality and let anybody who has a goal and a dream that they're aspiring towards and they're working towards, remind them that when you are in the middle of a crisis and when you're dealing with something that's very difficult that you can't openly speak about at work, that you're not alone, that you're not living this unique life experience, and that there's inevitably something wrong with you, that you're kind of having to fake it till you make it. The whole reason why we are having this conversation is to give people the validation and give people the safety to take the mask off for a second, to cry, to process whatever it is that they're carrying that is heavy, that they can't talk about in other settings, and just confront this stigma that we all have to be like robots in a professional setting, because it's just not possible. At the end of the day, we're human beings. We wake up human beings and we go to bed human beings. And there is a lot that comes with that. There's going to be all different kinds of things that we face in life that it's not possible to just leave that at home. Some of those things we are going to carry with us even over the threshold of our business. And we have to find the ways to not just like slap a Band-Aid on our issues, but also keep striving towards our dreams and goals and not giving up on them. And this podcast is just here to give you the tools, to give you the validation, and to give you the encouragement to keep going, even if it means taking a break in your car and letting the tears flow, or coming home and decompressing and maybe scheduling a therapy session outside of your work hours to unpack some of this stuff. Ultimately, I just hope that whoever is listening feels seen and validated and encouraged and given the strength to keep pursuing the goals and dreams, but to do it from a place that's healthy. So if this is your first time listening to Lights, Camera, Smile, I'm so glad that you're here. I have a couple other episodes on this podcast that I really think would be inspiring and maybe even challenging. So I encourage you to go back and listen to those. If you would, leave me a review of the podcast and let me know what you think. And if you have any ideas, drop a comment there. I just am so glad that you're here, and thank you for taking the time to listen and to participate in the conversation. So this podcast was kind of born out of my own personal need to process the things that I am going through as a small business owner who has goals and dreams, as somebody who's been in a creative avenue for, I don't even know, probably since the day I was born. Honestly, I've been kind of a creative person, but I've had a creative business now for about 5 years, and just kind of like starting to pivot my business in a new direction where I can kind of like do other aspects of things that I love, but also maybe include, you know, this podcast and a YouTube channel and sharing tips and tricks and stuff like that. But the whole reason why I even considered pivoting my business was because I started to experience a change in my business. I'm a wedding photographer, for anybody who doesn't know. But about 6 months ago, I started to encounter like this lull in inquiries and bookings, and my email inbox just got like kind of quiet. And every once in a while, I go through a season where that happens. And I just kind of, brace myself and say like, oh, it'll get better. It always does. I write it off as a fluke, got my savings account and things like that to just kind of get me through it. And it's no big deal. About 3 months went by and I kind of like woke up from that fog that I was in where I was just like writing it off and realized like, oh, I haven't gotten a booking. I haven't been paid for a new inquiry or anything like that in 3 months. And it just kind of like dawned on me that potentially this isn't just like a one-time thing, or potentially this isn't like a seasonal thing that I was used to. Maybe something else was happening in the market or in the industry, or maybe I needed to like reconsider like my business as a whole. And I got super nervous because I have spent about 4 years building it up to where it is now. I have loved every second of my business and I wouldn't change a thing. It has just been the absolute, like the adventure of a lifetime. And to feel like it was potentially slipping through my fingers and I couldn't control that, I didn't know what to do. So I started seeing a counselor who, she does like just life coaching and things like that, but she also does like a little bit of therapy, and was super helpful to be able to talk to her about these things. And she gave me some creative ideas that I could expand my business and pivot in other directions and do all these really like fun things that could potentially like expand my brand. And that's like where this podcast came out of. To be honest, this podcast was born after many weeks of me processing the fact that what I had been so accustomed to in my business and that level of success that I had been writing for so long, it was changing. And I, for a while, viewed that as my business is going under. I am failing. I look like an idiot to everybody who is watching. And I should just, give up and go get like a normal job, quote unquote. It never fails that, when these things happen in my life, that I jump to conclusions. That's just, I should write that on a resume. Jumps to conclusions. It's a skill that I have. But no, I really fell into this like depths of despair and really felt that like my life as I knew it was ending. And I don't have a college degree. I have a little bit of college, but I don't have like a bachelor's degree or anything. I don't have like a career really beyond this. And I just got so afraid and ultimately just felt like I wasn't ever going to be successful ever again. And here I am now, kind of like starting over in a way, pivoting my brand completely into like this other realm that it's never been before. And I'm still expressing myself like I always have. My photography business is just a creative expression of myself. And here I am pivoting into the podcasts and my YouTube channel and things like that. And they're also expressions of myself. And that's kind of what I want to talk about today, is like this idea of success and what we deem ourselves to be in terms of successful or not. The question of if I was successful or not was only ever a question that I posed to myself when I wasn't making money. And when I was faced with this reality that I may need to pivot my business, I may need to expand my brand, it was only ever something that I doubted when the money wasn't flowing in like I was used to. And I didn't have that consistent income. There was no other time when I'm like riding the high of, consistent bookings and pouring out content and all this other stuff. I never doubted that I was successful. Now that I'm navigating all of this, I look at myself in the mirror and really wonder, like, am I successful? Am I going to be successful? And I am so sad in my own process, but I'm also just saddened in general that my definition of success is monetary. And if I am not making the money like I used to, if I am not contributing financially like I'm used to contributing, if I am not, raking it in or whatever, I'm not successful. And it is just so sad because I don't believe that success is really that muddied down. I don't believe that it's pigeonholed to that one interpretation. But I feel like a lot of us struggle to really define it without pointing to some reference of somebody who's like a billionaire or something like that and be like, yeah, they're successful. Only when I wasn't doing what I have been so used to doing and making as much as I was used to making, did I look myself in the mirror and really honestly just say like, you're a failure. You're not successful. This isn't going to work. You need to give up. And honestly, like, I am my worst critic. It wasn't any other like statistic that I questioned my success. It was money. And I really hate to admit this. But like I said, the purpose of this podcast is to really, really get vulnerable. And when I mean like peel the curtain back and take a look behind the mask that we all wear, like I'm gonna rip it off first so that we all feel safe enough to do the same. Like my entire sense of identity in my business gets called into question based solely on money. And because I'm the only employee at my business, I blame myself and I wallow and I just fall into depression and I want to quit and give up. And there's so much more to success than that. And there have been so many conversations that I've had recently with people who are in various niches, not just wedding photography and not just the wedding industry. I think that everybody in some form or fashion will find themselves in this place where they have to reevaluate their definitions of success, and they have to really understand and that it can't just be for money, especially if you're going to be a small business owner. There are going to be so many times in life in general, but also in business, where you're not going to be hitting the mark as far as like your financial goals. So does that mean that when that time happens, you throw in the towel and you give up? No, of course not. There's so many other reasons to stay engaged. We have been taught as a society in television, in magazines, in movies, that the successful people are the ones with all of the possessions, with all of the wealth, with all of the recognition. It's such a finite and such a small version, in my opinion, of what success really is. And it makes the journey of getting closer to those goals and dreams so much more daunting, because there's so many other people who are further ahead of us and they have so much more money than us and they have so much more wealth than us. And why even try? If they're just going to continue to perpetuate that success and that wealth, maybe there's not enough for us. Maybe there's not enough to go around. If I have to compete with the people who are already established and I don't have any money and I don't have any recognition and I don't have any resources, how am I supposed to get there? That is how so many of us look at this idea of success. It is the destination and it's not the journey. It's not the process. It's the fruit of the process and what happens at the end. We're so focused on the end result. It's like, okay, by the end of 2025, I want to make $100,000 or something like that, from my business. And that's the only thing that we're focused on. By the time that we get close to the end of the year and we haven't met that goal, we deem ourselves unsuccessful when we write the entire process off. Therefore, we write ourselves off. We write every other goal and dream that we could ever have off because we didn't meet this goal, and then therefore we're not successful and we are not capable of being successful. And we forget that there's so much more to success than the destination of the journey. And it's so cliche, and God, I hate it. I hate to really build my entire case that I'm making here on stupid cliche catchphrases and crap like that. But the truth of the matter is that we can't always depend on the end result being exactly what we want it to be, and forgetting that there is so much to that process, forgetting that there's value in the process, that we get so lost in all of it and we we jump ship in the middle of the process because it's not going where we want it to go. It's not doing what we want it to do. It's not being what we want it to be. And a perfect example of this is what I've spoken about in my comparison episode about how I would sit there and count the likes and count the comments on my posts and deem it unworthy of being seen by the general public because it didn't perform the way that I wanted it to perform. It didn't meet a goal. It didn't get enough likes. It didn't get enough engagement. And then therefore, not only did I write that entire post off and say, well, that was unsuccessful, I then turned on myself because I'm the one that posted it. I'm the one that believed in it. I'm the one that put it into works and set it all up and then scheduled it and posted it and shared it with the world. And I was cheering it on up until the moment that it didn't meet the goal. And then I was like, well, that's unsuccessful. And why should I even try? I'm not successful. This ain't for me. And I jumped ship. And that's what I'm trying to say. Of course, I do think that we can gauge success based off of the results that we produce and based off of the amount of goals that we achieve and based off of the money that we make. I think that there's so much more to it than that, because if success was only ever just money, I don't know why we have all these other life skills. What's the purpose in getting married? Because I kid you not, I'm not making any money off my husband, but I can tell you that my marriage is successful. There's so much more depth to what we deem the word success means. And when we call someone successful, like, just close your eyes. Or don't, if you're driving, please don't close your eyes. If you were to think of the word success, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Likely possessions, money, and recognition. It's the end thing, the result of. It's not the process. It's not the purpose. It's not the stuff that was the cause. And I have spoken to so many people, and we all are battling this concept of, well, if I don't have a certain number of followers, well, if I don't get a certain amount of likes, well, if those likes don't produce a certain number of inquiries, which then become bookings, which then becomes money, and the cycle continues, then I'm not successful in this avenue, and therefore I should give up. And as much as I have done this and I have participated in this line of thinking, I have to stop myself and ask the question, why did I even join the industry that I'm in the first place? Why did I pick up a camera in the first place? Why did I gravitate towards instruments? Why did I become so passionate about like poetry and writing and things like that? Why is it that I really enjoyed all of this stuff and turned it into what it is now? And it was because there was something in me that had a bend in that direction. When I participated in it, there was like this life that came out of me, and there was something within me that all of these things I was participating in, it was like striking a chord of like truth of my identity. It was resonating deeply within me. I didn't do it because I wanted to make money. And I've said this before, I did it because it brought me joy. I did it because it was like a part of me. That's why I do anything that I've ever done. That's why I try on the clothes that I try on. That's why I listen to the music that I listen to. That's why my photography style is the way that it is. That's why I play the instruments that I play. It's all because I tried stuff. I found what resonated with me. And then therefore I discovered a new layer of who I am. And it brought me joy and fulfillment. And it felt life-giving. And it just so happened to be inspiring for somebody else. It just so happened to resonate with someone else. It just so happened to encourage someone else. It just so happened to push someone else to also try on those clothes, or also try that instrument, or also pick up a camera, or also do whatever. it brought someone joy. It made them laugh. Like we've been watching my dumb music videos back from when I was like 12, 13, 14 years old that I made with my laptop when I was off school in the summer. And I kid you not, there was absolutely no other purpose behind that other than the fact that it was fun and it made me laugh. And we're watching them now and it's funny to watch them. It's bringing me joy. But I remember that the whole purpose of it was to just like explore this creative side of me. I needed to have this challenge in my life. I needed to learn how to shoot video and edit it and do all that stuff because I had this itch in me in that time. And look where all of those tools and those skills that I learned and developed have brought me. Not only does it make me laugh to watch these videos, not only does it bring me joy to watch these videos and reminisce and all that stuff, and sometimes it makes me cringe, but then it makes you guys laugh and it's great. But I realize that I have learned skills and then I have applied those skills that I learned from a previous season in the new season that I step into. And that becomes a regular part of my life. And then I add on to those skills. And then I apply them in the next season of life and I develop and I develop and I develop and I get stronger, I get smarter, I get wiser. I become more creative. I find new ways to create. I find new outlets to pour myself into. I bring more joy to more people through other versions of expression. I don't know how anybody could look at me and tell me that that is not success. What is the purpose of all of the things that I've learned? And what is the purpose of all of the joy that it's brought if the only reason why I've done what I've done is to make money? This whole idea that there is nothing more to success other than accolades, it's so wrong and it's so false. Because there's no other way to be successful in my marriage than being intentional and growing my emotional self and my mental self, investing time and energy. No amount of money that I throw at my husband is ever going to win his affection if my heart is not in it. And the same goes for like the majority of things in life. Money is not the standard and it never should have been. But for some reason, we've all been convinced that the degree that we hang on the wall or the amount of followers that we have on our platform or the amount of engagement that we get on a post that we share that was so thought out and was so well nurtured because we were so excited to share it with the world. If it doesn't perform and if it isn't applauded by the world and if it isn't paid for in egregious amounts of money, then we're not successful and we're not going to make it. Of course, the majority of us are facing this question in a career-based environment, but there are so many people who have actually dissolved their businesses. There are many corporations who have filed for bankruptcy, and in the end, maybe they pivoted and went a different direction. Maybe they went and got a different job. Maybe they started a new business. Maybe they started over the same business completely. Did that make them unsuccessful? Does that mean that they're not worth being in the same circles as other people who didn't dissolve their business and didn't file for bankruptcy? No. They still have a dream. They still have a purpose. They still have all of these other things to share with the rest of the world. And just because their process looked different and is different, it doesn't mean that they don't have something to contribute. It doesn't mean that their experiences and the tools and the skills and all the things that they learned and developed to get maybe where they are today is not part of their story and is not part of that success. For me, my business hasn't done what I'm used to it doing. It hasn't contributed the amount of money that I am used to it contributing. And after I processed the reality that it may not do that anymore, I might need to pivot in a different direction, or it might just be a hiatus for now. I realized that I might need to get a part-time job doing something else. And for a long time, I viewed that as this major setback of, well, now my business is over. I should just give up on the dream entirely. It's not and never will be what it was. And it's just such a lie, because I identified myself as successful when my business was making money. I didn't identify myself as successful based off of the tools that I have and the skills that I've learned and developed. I didn't identify myself as successful based off of the resilience that I have seen within myself and the perseverance that I have seen come out of myself. I didn't identify myself as successful based off of the hope that I maintained throughout this process and the joy that I maintained throughout this process and what it's done in my marriage with my husband supporting me through this and all these other beautiful things that no amount of money could buy. No, unfortunately, I sat and wallowed and I identified myself as completely unsuccessful solely based on money. And I looked at this loss, quote unquote, of my business and this idea of like needing to get a part-time job as a major setback, because I've been so used to sitting in my office and just rolling out content and getting paid for it. And that was it. That was what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And anything other than going upwards and making more money and getting a bigger platform, it could only ever increase on what I always had. Otherwise, it was a failure. But in this process of learning and rewiring my brain to see everything that life gives me and throws at me is a way of developing me for the next thing, to appreciate all of the things I've learned from the past season and what I am bringing into this new season. In the process of learning to do that, I've accepted that this part-time job that I now have can be a beautiful thing. It can be an addition to my life. It's not taking anything from me. It doesn't make me less successful of a wedding photographer to go and work at a coffee shop part-time. There could be so much that could come from it. There could be so many good things, but it's just a matter of redefining and rewiring my definition of success and not looking at anything but my definition of success as failure, including my entire identity. Because that's what I was doing. If I wasn't making money, not only was my business unsuccessful, no, homegirl in the mirror, she's the failure. That's the reason why the business is failing. It's the evidence of her own failure. Just write it in bold red letters right there on the forehead. Failure. That's why the business is failing. It's not because the business itself is a failure. She is. We need to get rid of her. It's just so silly. It's so ridiculous because there's so many other things that have been added to my life. And there's so many other things that I've seen come out of myself. And to be honest, there's so many other like creative avenues that I can explore because I'm not so slammed with weddings. Don't get me wrong. I would love to be making more money in this area, but who knows? What path is this putting me on? What connections am I going to make through this that could become other potential methods of money? Or maybe this podcast can become a method of making money, or the YouTube channel, or maybe other things that I want to explore now that I have the time to do it. We have to redefine success for ourselves so that anytime we don't hit the mark of the accomplishment or the goal, we don't just lay on the floor and wonder if we should just give up altogether. We can't do that. That is no way to live. If we want to actually aspire to be anything, we should just aspire to be better than we were yesterday in any shape and form, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, creatively, however. There's so much more to success than what we can put in our wallets. And because this podcast is exploring a professional environment, but it's for anybody with a goal and a dream, that just goes across the board. There is so much more to success than getting the PhD or getting the A on the paper. It's great when we do that. And I fully believe that we're all capable of doing well in our industries. But there are going to be times where we fall short. And when you do, you take what you can from those lessons and you move forward. There's so much more to our goals and dreams in the ways that we've married ourselves to them. Like for me, I only ever thought once I started my business and went full time, I would never go back to any other job. I would do my business and I'd be self-employed until the day I retired. And look at what I'm doing now. But there is something from this that I am going to learn and gain. And the same thing can be applied to any other goal and dream. Maybe instead of buying that brand new car because the idea of having something flashy isn't what's best. And so you instead pay off the car and you live in the healthy consequences of having no car payment and living debt free. Our definitions of success are so broken and so short-sighted and wrong that we have to be proactive in relearning what it really is to be successful and understanding the value behind the process and the journey rather than having tunnel vision for the one and only thing that we want. And if we don't make it to the destination by tomorrow or by the deadline that we've set, then we're never going to. So it's either all or nothing. Like life is just not like that. And when we do that, we set ourselves up for the perception of failure. We don't actually set ourselves up for failure because I don't necessarily believe that failure is bad. But we set ourselves up for major, major, major disappointment and emotional turmoil that we shouldn't have to deal with and carry. And now we've got to wrestle through this and we have to question if we even know ourselves. Like, am I even good enough to be in the wedding industry if my business has a setback? Now I'm forced to question everything that I know about myself that I discovered in the process of just having fun. It's just so unnecessary. Rather than just embracing whatever comes my way, I'm going to take it and learn from it and realize that not everything is a trophy on my shelf so that when people come in and look at all my accomplishments, they applaud me. It's not like that. That doesn't mean that the hidden things that we deal with are not valuable, because they are. It's just not glamorous. It's not as glamorous as a brand new car or $100,000 in the bank or a house that you bought in cash. Those are all great ideas and they're all great goals to have. But if you don't get there tomorrow because you experience some other setback, that doesn't mean that you can't continue forward in that direction and take what you can from tomorrow, whatever it throws at you, and learn from it. Because the journey is the part of the process that is the most valuable thing, and the success or the destination of the journey and the process is just the result of the work that we do in the process. It's just the evidence of it. And to be quite frank, evidence of the destination, of the goal being accomplished, of the success in XYZ is not as valuable as the skills that we learn in the unglamorous side of getting there. Here's what we think. We think that success is literally from point A to point B, and it's this linear straight line. Or if we think success is going up or whatever, then it's point A to point B, and it's like straight line in an upward diagonal. When in reality, it's and it's like up and down and up and down and up and down, maybe side to side, and going like in completely different directions to get to point B. Ultimately, yes, I do think that we are elevated because we become more well-rounded individuals with more developed skills, better worldviews and perspectives of ourselves. We just become like better people that when we contribute to society, we contribute on a deeper level, we contribute on a wiser level, we contribute from more knowledge and realistic expectations of ourselves and of others. It's just, we're all better because we experience this like chaos between point A and point B, because it's just not linear. It's not always like that. It can be sometimes. I'm not saying that every single thing in life is just the hardest thing ever, but when it is difficult, when you get to this point of chaos between point A and point B, don't just jump ship. Don't just write yourself off and then give up on the dream and goal entirely, because then you'll create this pattern of anytime you face resistance towards whatever it is that you're moving towards, when you face resistance against the things that you are pushing towards that are something that you feel deep within your core, if you make a habit of just jumping ship, then anytime you have that resistance, you'll just give up and then you won't achieve anything. You'll have all of these processes that you abandoned midway and have no evidence of the completion of that process. And you'll have no security in yourself. You'll have no self-confidence. You won't know anything about who you are because you didn't persevere. And that's why I do firmly believe that success cannot and never should be solely monetary. It cannot be defined that way. It's just the evidence of it. It just says, obviously, you went through some crap so that you can have this stuff. It's not the thing we worship, but quite frankly, like, that's what society does. It elevates the money and the possessions and the accolades and the likes and the comments and the followers and all that stuff. It elevates it to this place where it's like so daunting to even want to have that stuff, because if you don't, then how are you going to get there? And then it's just like nobody wants to even try. And then the people who are already there just become like these gods. And it's just so wrong. And it's so defeating for anybody who wants to get there or anybody who has a dream at all, because we worship the result of the process rather than the process itself. So if you're struggling with this idea of like, am I successful? Am I going to be successful? Do people look at me and wonder why I even try or whatever? And you're kind of where I was and where I am battling. I want to ask you, why is it that you want what you want? Why is it that you are doing what you're doing? What is the purpose behind your goals and your dreams? Is it because you want money, or you want applause, or you want recognition from the world? Or is it simply because it's something that is coming from within you? If it's coming from within, however it comes out and however the world receives it doesn't matter. It just matters that you're staying true to yourself. It matters that you're doing what you want to do and what you love to do, and that it brings you joy. And it'll change and it'll grow, and sometimes it'll get recognition and sometimes it won't. But when it doesn't, at least you'll know that it doesn't define your reason why, and it doesn't make you want to quit. I think it's totally okay to want to make money. I think it's totally okay to have goals and dreams that involve possessions, but there's a process to get there. And in order to get there, you have to have a reason other than money. You have to have values beyond the applause of mankind. Because I'm going to tell you, there's going to be people who don't like what you like. They may not like what you share. They may not like what you post. They may not like your art form. They may not want to look at the things that you share. So what then? When you don't get where you want to be within a certain amount of time, when you don't meet the goals that you want to meet immediately, what then? And I've been there and I am there. And life is too short to sit here and wallow in self-pity because we didn't make as much money as we wanted to make, or we didn't get as much likes on our post that we wanted to get. There's so much more to life than that. So I want to ask you again, what is success to you? Is success gaining a deeper understanding of who you are in the process of self-discovery, gaining a deeper understanding of why you have this bend in you and why you're doing what you're doing, and pushing forward if you have pushback, and developing this resilience within you and seeing perseverance ring true is success. The skills that you develop along the way and the talents that you discover in the in-between is success. The evidence of the process that you walk through, or is success purely just the money, the approval, the recognition, the label? I'll tell you that I believe in you beyond what you can show me that other people see. I believe in you beyond the followers on Instagram. I believe in you beyond the likes and the comments. I believe in you beyond the dollar amount that you have sitting in your bank account or the car that you drive. I believe in you beyond that. I believe there's more to you. I believe that there are so many things that you have faced to make you so much wiser and so much smarter and have so much more to contribute to the world around you, whether it's through your method of expression or through something else. There's so much more value in you than what we think is success. And in my own process that I'm in right now, I am learning to look at myself in the mirror and say those things. And I'm starting to believe it day by day, bit by bit. And I hope that you can do that too. Whether it's, are you a successful wife and a successful mother, father, husband? If you're a successful entrepreneur, if you're a successful artist, if you're a successful clothing designer, if you're a successful whatever, you name it. There's so much more beyond the small little definition that we have when the word success comes to mind. Because there's so much more to it than that. Because there's so much more to us. So I hope that after you listen to this, you can pull down that visor in your car and look in the mirror, or you can go to your bathroom, or you can go anywhere else with a mirror and look at yourself and redefine success for you, and find those things within you that have been challenged and developed in new ways through all the pushback, through all of the things that you've seen as setbacks and failure, but really have been stepping stones. And look at yourself as successful because you have made progress. And you'll get there. You'll see your dreams come true one day. You'll see the goals hanging on your wall. You'll be celebrated. But I think that when we all get there and we make the money and we have the trophies, we'll realize that that is not the most valuable thing anymore. And I think that's the healthiest way to live. Because that's the only way to push us to keep going and keep trying when we fall short. So take a deep breath, breathe in, breathe out, cry if you need to. This idea can be really heavy, and it's hard not to identify with the failure, and it's hard not to look at ourselves as less than when we compare endlessly to other people, and we're so inundated with other people who are where we want to be, because it's so funny. We tend to surround ourselves with that on social media and on TV and the movies and stuff like that. So take a deep breath and forget all of that and get alone with yourself. Find the gold within you that has been refined and pressed and made beautiful, and bring it out. Say it out loud. I'm proud of your perseverance. I'm proud of your resilience. I'm proud of how you've had hope in times where anyone else would be hopeless. I'm proud of how you've brought joy to others in your creative expression, whether it made you a dime or not. I'm proud of you exploring new dreams and new goals when it seems like your current ones are being crushed. I'm proud of you. I encourage you to say those things. I encourage you to find those things within yourself and say those things out loud and redefine success for you so that you can continue to move forward into tomorrow, so that you can continue to press on into your goals and dreams, and so that one day we can all applaud you and you won't care how loud or how quiet that applause is because you are proud of yourself. I love you so much. Thank you for being here and thank you for listening. If you would leave me a review of this podcast and leave me a comment on anything else you'd like me to talk about, I really hope that you enjoy the rest of your week, and I hope that you find a new way to creatively express yourself. I'll see you next time.